Welcome to this Five Clubs conversation. I'm Johnson Wagner, your host, joined by my co-host, Brendon de Jonge, 2013 International President's Cup team member, good friend of mine, college teammate, college roommate. We're joined today by the great Andy Roddick, 2003 U.S. Open champion, tennis Hall of Famer. We're going to talk a little bit of Masters recap, a little bit of tennis, maybe see how Andy feels about the LIV Golf Tour. All this coming up next on Five Clubs.
I think this is only a grip.
It's only my sole connection to this.
It's only in my hands on every single shot.
It's an extra 2 yards of carry when it matters most.
Yeah, only a grip.
Mine are only golf pride.
Respect the grip.
And with that, Brendon, Andy, welcome. Andy, thanks for being here.
Cheers, thanks for having me.
Let's get into the Masters a little bit. I watched a ton. I know Brendan's not a fan of golf, so he didn't watch a whole lot, but what were your takeaways?
I'm the biggest fan. I mean, it's my kind of number one sporting event of the year. I know one thing from my former life. If the conditions look that bad on TV, they are horrendous. And when you can see real raindrops coming and it reminded me a little bit of Wimbledon, where they used to have that spritz where you'd be on and off all day, and the stress mechanisms in place. I had a lot of sympathy for what they were going through on Saturday, but Sunday came good, didn't it?
It sure did. Rahm was a great champion. I was actually down there Saturday with a college buddy, another teammate of ours at Virginia Tech, and my hands were frozen standing under an umbrella all day. I was pretty happy I wasn't playing golf.
Yeah.
We're watching all these guys finish their second round on the 18th hole. Nobody could even sniff the bunkers down the left side. It was absolutely brutal, but Brooks Koepka made a run. You got any thoughts or feelings on those LIV guys?
It was interesting. The whole time I'm going, obviously Rahm kind of took over, was around 6-7 hole. I think he kind of got his nose in front a little bit, but I'm going, oh my gosh, is this going to be a playoff with Rahm and Liz? Is this going to be a LIV versus PGA playoff at golf's greatest stage? And are people going to meet behind the green and do the whole thing? I felt like I wanted to avoid that sort of drama. But credit to the listen, the LIV guys have been taking a lot of heat, and they came and they played. Reed finished 6th, and Mickelson was right there, and these guys weren't getting taken in our Masters drafts, and they can still play,
Absolutely.
I think a lot of guys were surprised. We've seen these guys going out there in shorts and look like they're just playing with their buddies. And then, hey, you know what? When push came to shove, these guys showed up. They pushed those guys all the way down.
Mickelson posting 8 under par, Rahm's making bogey on 9, sitting at 10 under par, and they're basically crossing paths there off those 2 greens. I found it absolutely amazing. I was certainly happy that it was Rahm winning and kind of made it not a very interesting back 9. I always love Augusta finishing, a little tighter than that, but I thought it was incredible. And it kind of brings me to my next point. I know the Saudi kind of sports commission has a tournament over in Saudi Arabia now. I'm not sure the name of it, but getting a lot of big names. Do you have any thoughts? Was that something that was going on at all when you were playing tennis?
Not really. I think everything's a little bit more heightened. I think I would be lying to you if I said I was as aware of geopolitical issues in 07, 08, 09, and kind of the source of money, how that affected everything. So I maybe I was just ignorant. I think everyone's a little bit wiser. I think we've all kind of had a forced education into the history of this type of thing because of LIV and because of maybe some crooked FIFA deals and maybe some other things. So I think we're probably a little bit more aware in 23 than we might have been 15 years ago.
That's fair, and we've had discussions about when we were in the height of our career back in the early 2000 teens, what would we have done? It's nice that I wasn't forced with that decision being washed up by the time LIV came around, but what do you think?
I'll be honest. I put my name forward. It was a long shot, but I put my name forward when it came about. I don't think that anybody should judge either way. I really don't. I feel like people are at different points financially in their career, whatever. I don't feel like anybody should be judged for the decisions they've made.
I mean, what would you have done back in the day if this tournament in Saudi was going on? Do you think you would have gone and played for the cash?
I don't think so. I mean, I think it's playing one tournament is a different decision than 200 guaranteed when you're not really concerned about getting the ball in the hole as much as you used to be. Also, I would not have given up the chance at playing in majors because that's what I wanted to do. I probably a little bit more perspective. My whole thing, and the thing that I think largely gets ignored is, the PGA Tour. It's an opportunity for a long time. I mean, you're going to hit 50 and have another opportunity, right? You're going to have another look at the basket. Now, a decision you make at 23, is that going to affect your life until you're 50? So I hope it's not a short-sighted decision that, a prospect makes, like a Taylor Gooch goes and makes at 23 that affects him when he's 50 is a great 4-year run, but the cumulative effect of money and the opportunity to have that for 25 years, I think is largely underreported. Not to mention, if this doesn't work out, the Saudis are going to go kick rocks. You can't go to Saudi and sue them and get that money. It's gone. It's like a fart in the wind. Like, you're not going to see it again. So I get I bet 4 or 5 guys got a lot of upfront money, and I bet, a lot of the other guys that weren't the first ones through the door, I think they took a little bit more risk than maybe they're aware of.
Well, and a guy like Harold Varner, who we both play a lot of golf with back here in Charlotte, like, he loves playing golf. And so if it's done in 2 years, what's he going to do? What's he going to do from 35 to the rest of his life? It's a big window, but I find it. And Brendon's perspective, being from Zimbabwe, I think you see a lot of the foreign players not having quite the belief that American players do of having gone over. I mean,
no, I do agree with that, and I think if you look at the guys that went over there are a lot of foreign guys that did that, and obviously it's not that we're not as loyal to the PGA Tour because it gave us a great opportunity, but maybe just a little bit easier to make that move, I would say.
And so, Andy, on the PGA Tour aspect of it, you follow the PGA Tour, I'm assuming. How have you enjoyed the designated event structure this year? And I mean, do you think it's bringing stuff back to the game? And second part question, did you enjoy watching the Masters with those guys back in it? Did it give you more interest level?
Yeah, it was great because it's like having, like, back in the days of like WWE, I used to watch it with my grandmother right before she took her teeth out for the night. We would sit there and watch it, and you had like NWO, right? You had like this villain, and like they're coming into town, and Patrick Reed's dumbass is wearing the 4 Aces gear, like, and just really kind of making a celebration out of it. But that's kind of what you want, Sports, it works on rivalries, it works on differences. People that act the same, we don't remember those rivalries. We remember differences in styles and in opinions and in the way people act. I thought it added. It added a little bit more, especially because we missed 2 full days of network broadcast, right? Like, we didn't see that. So I for entertainment value, I liked it. I did not want the result to be a live guy. I did not want to see the circus behind the green at Augusta National. I did not want to see that. I was definitely cheering for a PGA person winning, but. Listen, it was a talking point. It was another thing to see, something to cheer against. What did they say? The average, the person who says they hate Howard Stern listens for like an hour and a half a day, and the average fan listens for like 40 minutes a day.
That's how I feel That's how I feel about a few podcasts I've been listening
sure.
to lately. Let's get away from Liv for a minute. Brendon, lead us off with some tennis stuff, if you don't mind. Let's get into a little bit of tennis. Brendon fancies himself as a bit of an amateur tennis player now in his retirement.
We both do now.
Well, there's amateur and amateur. All right, back to the start.
Yeah.
Saddlebrook Academy was where it all started for you. What did a day look like at Saddlebrook Academy?
It's a bit of a factory. And by the time you arrived at Saddlebrook, you've probably, been good in your city, good in your state. You're probably playing up a couple of divisions. But we always used to say, I think this goes for any sport, if you're a kid from Charlotte or Zimbabwe, if you think you're really good at a sport, you just got to travel a little further and see what the rest of the world has to offer. So Saddlebrook was insane. I mean, you'd go to school at 7 a.m, you would get out. We pretended that we were there for education for about 4 hours. then we would just play tennis 6 or 7 hours a day, do fitness, but you also were exposed to like the best kids from different countries, and so it brought out this like insecurity at a young age. It's like I thought I was good, and then this kid's way better. But also it's like you didn't take many days off of the grind because you saw that kid who was a little bit better. Ultimately, I left Saddlebrook after about a year and a half because it was very. I think the burnout rate was pretty high, but it did kind of set the precedent for a certain type of work ethic. You can leave that place, but after being exposed to something, you know, you're told something and you forget it. You see something and you remember it. So I saw it, I remembered it, and it was. I certainly knew that I was probably at a talent deficit based on earth.
What year? How old were you when you were there?
I think I went there when I was 12 and left when I was 14. But then when we were 14, we kind of. Basically, all the kids that got thrown out of USTA funding, right? So basically you turn 15 or 16 and they say, okay, well, we're going to take these kids and they're going to make it, and these kids aren't. So we basically took it was like the first tier that weren't going to make it, and we used to play at we had a South African coach named Stanford Boster, and we would play at his apartment complex. And we, churned out a couple of top 10 guys, and we kind of had a little bit of an edge about being the cast-offs who became the not cast-offs.
So if a parent came up to you now and said, little Johnson, or little Sally, whatever, is showing real promise.
Little Johnson, when you say that, it's funny. If his name was like Tom.
No, he's Little Johnson.
Yeah.
Would you say, yes, I think this is the way forward, this is the way to go, or that burnout rate's pretty high?
It's so kid dependent.
Yeah.
I think we would be well served in tennis development in the U.S. because it is so big, right? We've tried to model it where we create one epicenter like they do in France. Well, like everyone in France can drive there in 3 hours. Yep. So having a 14-year-old there, he can still get home, right? There's a different issue. I think if someone's in a great position with a comfortable coach, I don't know why we would take them out of a good situation. I always say it used to be where you felt like you were playing for a logo of a tennis federation as opposed to your country or your flag, right? The goal is no one knew that I was one of the cast-offs when I was playing Davis Cup at 18. No one cared. They cared that I could add value and win matches. I think there needs to be, of a player development budget, if someone's in a great situation, let's fund that situation better. Right? Let's create more opportunities to travel. Let's expose people to best practices for physical training. When they come to a center, let their coach come, so they're in on the conversation. So you're not changing something or someone at 13 or 14 years old. And then for every one of those kids, there's a kid who doesn't have the correct coaching, who has just been a phenom as far as talent. Let's get them some coaching. Let's get them some competition. So I do think there needs to be a little bit more of a metric of like letting a good situation be better.
Do you believe that's where kind of the downfall of tennis has been in American tennis, for just lack of talent, or
Lack of talent? Come on.
I would say, are we doing a good job of creating a friendly handshake into the sport with athletes that are talented, not just people who are interested in tennis? The downfall is interesting because I think we're just basing it against a long shadow. Currently, as we stand, we have 11 American men in the top 50 in the world. Right. That almost doubles every other country. So are we basing it against the shadows that I played in, the Agassi, McEnroes, and at that point in time we didn't have to worry about Serbia. We didn't have to worry about a lot of tennis. If we leave kind of the echo chamber of United States tennis, it's the second most popular sport in a lot of major markets around the globe, right, behind soccer. And so as that interest level has grown around the world, it's kind of had a little bit of a backslide as far as American interest. If you look at the top 10 endorsers from 1984, 5 of them were tennis players. Right. Now none of them would be, right? So I think it's just maintaining interest and having something. I don't think we've played the marketing game very well, frankly.
Well, and that's one thing in golf that has been so specific. I consider myself an athlete a little bit, but you look at this young.
Do you?
not really. I can't run a mile, I can say that. But if you look at the athlete that's getting into the game now, guys like Brooks Koepka and Rahm, and even going like Gordon Sargent, like we are getting such incredible athletes that I think Tiger Woods brought to the game that otherwise didn't. And you're competing against football, baseball, basketball, and golf is so far down the list. And you're saying tennis is down that list as far as athletes wanting to get involved in the U.S. Is that?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, if your choice as a parent is okay, I'm gonna, I have a very talented 9-year-old athlete, which take that for whatever it is, right? Am I going to participate in sports that have like a very strong infrastructure? Post-school, I can have major competitions within you draw a circle around your city and you can drive 3 hours. Or am I going to get into a sport there that requires, once you're at a certain level, being 7 in the country and 14 in unders, all that means is that you're gonna have to spend a lot more money traveling, right? So
globally. Yeah,
and there's no, it's not as if there's a guaranteed contract. I know that's that way in golf, but the prize money's better in golf. So you're taking on a very challenging existence that basically has 80 jobs worldwide that you're going to make real money doing. And it's not, I always use the stat. 1 year at the Open, I got so pissed because, and I think golf does a better job at this. They're still guilty of it in one way, but defining people as a journeyman. So I was playing someone who was ranked like 30 in the world or 40 in the world second round, and this journalist kept referring to a journeyman. And I said, do you know how many Major League All-Stars there were this year? And how would you define them? Like, the best in the game. I go, there were 55, including injuries. But yet, and that's from a place that's largely played in like 7 or 8 countries. And a lot of those 7 or 8 are tiny little countries. I go, this is a global sport. This guy's 30 in the world, and you're kind of dismissing him out of hand. There's 30 guys on it. There's 70 guys on an NFL team, one team. I go, but that's what I'm talking about with tennis. Like, we have to market it differently. Like, we have to know the names of the players that are, you walk into, the clubhouse at Quail, like, geez, Johnson's won a bunch on tour. That's awesome.
Total journeyman. From that perspective.
but like, it's just different, and we don't tell the story well enough in tennis.
Yeah, the individual sport compared to the team sport. I mean, that's my big problem with the designated event structure going forward for next year is that there's only 175 guys a year that are members of the PGA Tour. And your point to football, there's 70 guys a team. There's something like 2,500 players every year in the NFL. And so the PGA Tour is healthy. We're booming. I have a hard time believing that this is the right time to shrink down. And nobody outside the top 50 gets any press or any love. It's all about those top 10, 15 guys.
You can have a really good year on tour, finish 55th on the money list. You've played good all year, and all of a sudden you get booted out of these big events. I think that's
Is there any value for, if we're talking purely from a marketing perspective, is there any value in someone 70 in the world not having those big names on the off weeks to where they're actually getting the shine on TV and they're actually monopolizing a leaderboard, more often?
And that's the other side of the argument, is that it's going to be a wait and see game to see if that actually plays out like it should next year. That's definitely the tour's argument, is that those non-designated events are going to be better served having all those guys in that 70 range. But yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure about it right now.
I think it's going to be fluid. I think it's going to be very fluid. This is going to be a number of years until they iron out everything that's wrong, and until we have a concrete model that they're going to stick to. I think it's going to continue to change.
Tiger spoke on Tuesday in his press conference at Augusta about how he's lobbying the tour to have cuts in his events, which I love. I know Nicklaus is as well. Palmer would be very upset to hear that Bay Hill wouldn't have a cut. So I think it is fluid. I like that point.
It's such a big part of professional golf is grinding it out on a Friday afternoon to play the weekend. It's a huge, you play differently, like you think differently, and it's a part of professional golf, and all of a sudden that just gets thrown out.
Right, you're playing the U.S. Open tennis back in 2005, and Andy's guaranteed to make it to the final day. Like, that just doesn't make sense.
I will tell you, with just the cuts made conversation, like, golf has a million reference points. Like, we don't keep track of how many times you made the second round. Like, golf has so many great talking points and so many different ways to tell a story during a broadcast. Tiger, 23 straight cuts in the mat, and like, it makes it like, is he gonna make it? I'm like, what does that matter? in the grand scheme of time, it's a great talking point. But like golf does a better job of telling stories in broadcast than tennis does, to where we want to pay attention because we want to know this exemption into Augusta. So, you know, being top 20, top 15, I'm not sure where it actually lies, but they have the ability to tell better stories on a personal level, and having cuts is kind of one of those.
Right, and to that point, like Sam Bennett, it's top 12 gets invited back to Augusta. The amateur Sam Bennett coming down the stretch, and he didn't end up making it in there. I think he was one shot off, but that is, you're paying attention to this guy finishing because there are that many stories. And from a gambling aspect, golf, we have great statistics, and we have on a normal event, we've got 156 balls in the air at a tennis tournament at one time. Maybe you're watching 4 matches at a time on a early round coverage, but golf has so many advantages, and I like to hear you say that the tour is doing a good job of telling those stories, because from my perspective, I feel like they could go a lot deeper, but they are trying. They are making an effort to go deeper into it.
Yeah, listen, because they have an opportunity to tell them. Are they telling them fully? I don't know. I mean, you would want a deeper dive. I watched this. And golf had one too. What's the thing on Netflix?
Full Swing.
Yeah, so I did some work on the tennis one, just kind of commentary, but I wanted a deeper dive. I found it a little average, like it was kind of very topical, but then I talked to people who have kind of a starting interest in tennis, and they loved it. So I'm going, okay, great. There was a value add. It's not for me. So maybe it's just that I'm a golf fan, and you actually know kind of how the sausage is made.
Did you watch Drive to Survive?
I haven't watched it yet.
Oh man, it was so good, and I knew nothing.
Oh, sorry, the F1 one. Yes.
And so I thought their first season was similar. It was kind of like here's your introduction. I'm sure a lot of the hardcore F1 fans hated it. I personally thought.
And then it got deep.
And it did, and I thought I'm so happy that Full Swing's coming back for a second season, because I think it will drive them. But to the average golf fan, and we were talking about you on Break Point on the way over, like it was. I know your commentary was much deeper than what they showed, right? Like, were you a little bit upset?
They just wanted me to say Kyrgios was lazy or something. I mean, that was kind of it.
Right.
That was my sole purpose.
And he is.
Very. Yeah. Self-admitted, by the way.
Yeah.
So it's not. And then I was like, you bashed him. I'm like, I mean, I'll cut and paste what he says. Right. Like I'm just. If anything, I'm just repeating.
Right. You got any more tennis?
Yeah, I got tons of tennis. We are a golf podcast. I mean, I do fancy myself.
Well, I want to talk about Sweetens Cove a little bit.
Yeah.
Are you cool with that?
Great.
And how did you get involved with the new ownership structure, the new ownership group with Peyton Manning, Drew Holcomb, our friend Jonathan Ishii?
Yeah, that was a nice shout out for Ishii right there. He's gonna eat that up. It's a good name check in the same breath as Peyton Manning.
Well, he puts himself at that level.
No, I know what he thinks. It was just he's gonna like that. So I have another business partner who has a background in development, hotels, real estate, and he had read the article about Sweetens Cove in the New York Times that was the little course that could was the name of it, and gave the full story of Rob Collins and how he was out there. He would rent equipment during the day, go build this golf course, and then return it at night. And then he did everything with maintenance. He was kind of like the MacGyver of this course, and took this course it's in a floodplain, and made it into kind of this first golf course that I think social medium's built. Right, like they photographed it the right way. There was great marketing around it. They would let someone come and still do. You can pitch a tent on the first hole. Sun comes up, person's not even in the shed yet, and you can just fire one off. Now, when you come back around, you might have to pay the bill. So, but my partner was obsessed with the idea of this golf course, and I said, do we want to be in the 9-hole golf business? Is that what we're doing? That doesn't sound like it has a ton of scale.
You weren't an easy sell?
No. I normally am the guy who has 4 questions once he's heard one thing, so super annoying. But then there was an opportunity. We were at a whiskey bar, and we're looking at, there's 7 pages of real estate with Kentucky whiskey bourbons, and there were like 3 options from Tennessee. It's like, okay, there's a Tennessee golf course. There's, maybe there's an opportunity here. We talked to Peyton, and he was interested. So I'm like, okay, we got Tennessee Jesus on board now. We found a master blender, Marianne Eves, who's like a genius. We just stay out of her way with the product she makes. And so, can we tell a story using this golf course? It is an underdog story. We're gonna, try to push this brand. A lot of it just made sense. We had a lot of we had a lot of yeses when we didn't deserve them. I don't think we had a proper business plan. We made up some valuation to raise money, and people, I think they were just paying a friendship tax at that point. But it's worked. Started in 2 states. We'll be in 25 next year. But it's like learning about the last mafia. This booze business. I'll tell you that.
And it's been such the brand Sweetens Cove to that point. Like Jonathan's given me a couple bottles. It's good stuff, but it's the brand that y'all have built through this new partnership and the improvements that have been made to the golf course itself, which started the whole thing. But I'm fascinated with it. I've been down there once with you, and it was one of the coolest days ever. I mean, it was a sloppy golf course, but it just how many different.
It's not. It was raining. It's not a sloppy golf course. It was raining that day.
Yes, that's what I mean. But like, how many different routings can you play out there at Sweetens as well? There's like 45 different holes on a 9-hole golf course.
So they have like the original Sweetens Cove Illuminati who were out there way before our new ownership group, and we've certainly wanted to. We've been so precious about keeping the things that made Sweetens special in place, while also trying to improve it and potentially even make it a profitable business along the way. 2 different flags on every hole every day. People are just going to try to loop as much as possible. We stopped selling tee times and went to like a day pass, so someone can get there as soon as they want and they can play till the sun goes down. The routings that the kind of original Sweetens Cove Illuminati, I don't understand all of them. You tee it off in the middle of the fairway on 7, you hit it across the property to God knows where, and so hundreds would be the answer, of which I understand about 3 of them.
But I think that's what's so cool, and that's what golf misses a place like that. I mean, how many people in Chattanooga area go out and play Sweetens Cove, and it's one of their first experiences in the game of golf, and it really it brings them back time and time again. And did y'all build a putting course out there too?
Yeah, so it's this massive, like the height differential between the bottom of the putting course and the top is something like 40 some odd feet. It's nuts, but it's great because with a 9-hole loop, there's going to be a bit of a bottleneck with people going on and off. So we had to have something that was awesomely entertaining, so someone's not pissed that they have to wait 45 minutes before they make the circle. And Rob Collins came in and just built this. I love Rob Collins. I don't know that anyone has ever described him as subtle. And I'm such a huge fan of his. And he came and just what was kind of this ditch of a parking lot of some sort, he turned into this endlessly entertaining putting green. We don't have a range. We can't fit one. We barely have nets, so you can't. You have to have something that's like a friendly handshake into golf before you're hitting off that first tee.
Have you been out to see his place, Landman, that he built out?
I have, and I'm going to go this summer.
And then he's doing Red Feather in Lubbock as well, which is apparently extremely wild. JJ Killeen's place.
Yeah, that place looks like it's going to be unbelievable.
Brendan, I feel like I'm not giving you enough time here, but I want to kind of back it up just a hair because I think this is really interesting, having 3 basically retired professional athletes. I know the last couple of years of my life have been kind of excruciating, like not mental illness excruciating, but like, what am I going to do next? Like and finally Golf Channel came around, this podcast came around, and the fulfillment I'm feeling. But what was the transition from professional tennis to your new life right now? What was that like for you?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it too. I think it's intimidating for a lot of, not even athletes, but people who have done something for 30 years. We're doing it at an earlier age because we started a little bit early. You practice golf every day from the time you're 7. You practice it like it's a job. So maybe you're not getting paid, but you're acting like you have a job for a serious moment in time. I was pretty lucky. I had kind of started building the afterlife mid-career with some different business ventures. So I always feel guilty when I say this, and I feel like I should give a different response. When I'm like, wow, do you miss it? I'm like, most days, not much. Like I get like chills the moments, and I get it now, but like the first day of Wimbledon, the first match when 2 guys or gals are walking out, like I know what that smells like, right? I know kind of this like hush, some stadiums whisper, some murmur, some scream and yell at you. And so those little moments where I know what they're thinking and feeling, then I get like a little bit of a rush. But like most Tuesdays, I didn't struggle much.
Were you a guy that when you were playing, you absolutely loved tennis? Like tennis was it, be all end all?
Most of the time. I mean, listen, like the good times are the best and everything's flowing. And, when you're thinking about, a shot and not a swing, like those are the best of times, right? Like there are little pockets in a career where you go, okay, I might lose, but I'm not going to play badly. I know I have it in there right now. Those are fun. You know, when you're struggling and fighting and clawing and hurting, like those practice days suck a lot of the times, but I always had an appreciation for it. I always had perspective on, listen, like I lost an excruciating, lost the women's finals 3 times. The last time was brutal, but at the end of it, like the crowd is chanting my name and I didn't win.
That was the 09 final?
Yeah, and so it's perspective matters,
Sure.
right? So I always had, I think, a healthy sense of perspective, even if I was just pissed. Now, it wasn't easy. I was pretty emotional. Like practice courts, I had to like, the biggest point of jealousy I ever had with Roger Federer was I had to like win every practice set. Otherwise, I felt like I wasn't prepared. Like I had to die for it. I had to like, and that's probably why I retired at 30, because just the mental toll that I kind of put on myself. Whereas I would look over and I'd be walking in from some practice where I went 2.5 hours and, you know, literally had to have a result in practice, which is insane. Walk by him and he's like relaxed, you know, hitting balls around, losing to some guy 6-2. And I had the jealousy of him knowing that on Monday start of a major, he could lose to, you know, he could lose to some guy 200 in the world in practice set on Saturday, and it did not affect his mindset that he knew it was going to be there when he needed it on Monday. And that drove me nuts. Absolutely nuts.
And did you, like, I know you've gotten to become a really good golfer. Last time I looked, you're like a 2.5 index.
That's well, yeah. I'm good enough to know I'm not good.
Is that a vanity handicap?
No, it's not. It's not a vanity handicap. I'm a guy who makes a lot of pars and no birdies. I'm the worst partner ever.
Did you take your work ethic from tennis to your golf game?
I don't practice. Like I don't know.
But when did you start playing the game?
So I started my last year on tour, so maybe 2011. But it was kind of only when I was home, and then I retired, and for 18 months after I retired, I think I played golf 5 days a week. I would be out my door at 6:45 in the morning. I'd be first on, and I would just be going. So that was kind of my crash course. But a lot of people go to the range and like endlessly hit balls. I like playing. I just like having fun. I like being with, and I also fear if I took it too seriously, like I know what I'm aware of lots of my personality flaws. They would probably manifest if I took it too seriously.
Was it a competitive outlet for you at all?
Not really. I mean, I like playing fun games, but I'm not. There's no chance I lose to someone in golf and it's going to ruin my day.
Right.
Like there's not a set of consequences that are worth anything in golf. So I'd like to think I'm different from general golf orbit, because I mean, listen, I suck. What does it matter? I'm not playing for paychecks anymore, right?
Yeah, but to get to start, so you started playing golf when you were 29 years old, and to get down to a low single-digit handicap, that's you're obviously an elite level athlete, but that's you're being very humble with that response. There's people who've played golf their entire life and can never become a single digit. So I think
that's mostly just because I'm way more athletic than they are.
Did you pick it up quickly? I mean, I know you send it now, but were you mauling the ball at 29, 30 years old?
No, I couldn't hit a driver. Like I was like I could get it like
Brendon now.
I could get
Sounds about right, unfortunately.
I'm sure it's all right. No, I don't know. I could clip an iron. I could hit it pretty. You know, no, but it's improved over time, like anything. But I got good quickly. Also, I played a lifetime of golf for most people in 18 months. That matters.
Do you ever take any formal lessons, or you just taught yourself how to?
No, I should. Not really. I wasn't real good at taking a lot of technical instruction in tennis.
Yeah.
So it was like, if someone was like, your arms need to be at a certain angle, and then I'd have a coach come in and say, soften your elbows. I was like, oh, soften your elbows makes sense. Where the racket height is and where I'm trying to, that never really made sense. It was more of a feeling. So I can only assume that I'd be even worse at that.
So you've never had a lesson at all?
No, I haven't had a lesson.
Man, you got a good pro over there at Charlotte Country Club,
Yeah.
Eric Williamson.
I know. But also, like, this is the way my mind works. Like, I could go for an hour with him, or I could go. I need to become more obsessed with becoming like a scratch golfer, and I don't really care that much.
Do you play competitively? Do you play the club championships at the clubs your members at? Remember, you play some member guests and stuff.
I'll play some member guests, but that's just more fun. Maybe I've kind of over the last year started thinking maybe I should try to play a club championship here and there, but I haven't to this point. Like
You just recently withdrew from a tournament down at Ohoopee Match Club for a pickleball tournament?
Yes, that's what my life is now. It's pickleball. We had a member. I withdrew late on our friend Drew Holcomb. So I think he was less than pleased, but he was real classy about it, Johnson. But we played. Do you remember? So we all remember the match with Tiger and Phil in Vegas at Shadow Creek.
Yeah.
So David Levy, who was kind of the architect of that, used to run Turner. Has a new company called Horizon, and so his brainchild of his first event was, I'm going to take this sport that's growth rate is very high on the participatory side, but hasn't really translated to TV. I'm going to take 4, has-been tennis players and throw them out there live on ESPN to play pickleball. And so from signing the contract to doing it, and we're playing for $1 million. Signing the contract to actually on TV live playing a sport that none of us had ever played before was like 3 months.
Y'all look pretty good out there. I mean, you and Agassi were dying. There was some serious sweat factor going on. It looked like Brendon and I playing tennis on a hot summer day.
I'm disgusting with that. But it was a 10 out of 10 fun. I didn't realize I missed that crowd feedback until I was out there. I was like, this is amazing. It was a great excuse to do something fun. And my favorite part about it was Andre was my idol. I made all the bad wardrobe decisions right along with him. A lot of neon, a lot of, grew a mullet. And to have the way he, how analytical he is about everything was so much fun. Because I'm getting text feedbacks. He's breaking down this game that is like a barbecue game, but it basically gave me an excuse to pretend like I'm really close friends with Andre for 3 months, which was fun.
Did y'all ever play matches against each other?
Yeah, so I lost to him. The first match I ever won on tour was in 2000. I beat a guy ranked 40 in the world. A big tournament in Miami, equivalent to a WGC event. And I was 17. Lost to him at night. It was 12,000 people. Second round, played him, but I couldn't even breathe. He came up 5 minutes before the match, because an empty locker room at night matches. Comes up, he goes, "I'm Andre." I'm like, last name? I was like, oh. I almost felt like, it was the South Park character who, whenever Wendy comes up and talks to him, he just vomits on her. That's kind of what I felt like, but got tuned up by him. I remember lost to him that night and then had to go. My mom made me to go to school the next morning. So I went from playing in front of 12,000 that night to math class at 9 a.m. And that's when I realized I really needed to be good at tennis, so I didn't have to do math anymore. But I lost to him a lot. Beat him once.
All right, back to some more tennis here,
Yeah.
a little bit. All right, obviously we grew up playing in the Tiger Woods era. You grew up playing with 3 Tiger Woodses.
Yeah.
Probably the 3 greatest of all times. Is there any part of you that thinks, man, that was a privilege, or you're like, shit, if it wasn't for these clowns, I could have double-digit slams?
Both. I don't think I would have had double-digit slams. I'm pretty sure I would have won Wimbledon a couple times, maybe. I probably would have had maybe an Aussie Open, maybe another U.S. Open. The only regret I have, I would have loved to have won 2 more points at Wimbledon. I was within 2 points probably 5 or 6 times. If I had that, I don't care about 5, 6. I had a cup of coffee at number 1. That's a fun thing to be able to say. But no, I mean, I during my Hall of Fame speech, it's how do you approach that? It's a weird thing, and I tried to approach it always through the lens of I'm a tennis fan first and foremost.
Right.
So it's how many tennis fans get to guard Jordan, get to pitch to Babe Ruth, get to see Picasso make something, and that's kind of what I felt. And all the while, I grew up watching Serena Williams train to be a champion also. So I had a kind of a front row seat to that as well. So would I have loved to have won Wimbledon? Absolutely.
Sure.
Am I bitter about any part of it? Just a little. Just a little, but it's absolutely insane what these 3 have done. Novak, he'll end up being the best by any statistical metric.
Right.
Anyone who argues against that just likes someone else more.
Yeah.
But it's crazy the way that they've changed the narrative around how we value slams. This kid Alcaraz comes out. He's in the semis of the U.S. Open last year. And you're having conversations with tennis people, right? It'd be like you guys being in the golf locker room, and they're going, is he going to win 10 slams? I'm like, okay. So, McEnroe's won 7. Becker and Edberg have won 6. Agassi has won 8. Now the conversation starts at 10.
We're guilty of that in golf
Because
too.
of these 3 guys.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's That's insane.
I'm already handing out Rahm 8 majors after his performance on Sunday. Like, I mean, I think media is so guilty of that. Rory, when he won his 4th, who would have thought?
Yeah.
9 years later he'd still be stuck at 4?
And you're making a lot of assumptions, right? You're making a lot of like, it can go squirrely at any time. You know, is someone gonna like the fact that these guys have all been able to play 20 some odd years straight? And listen, Rafa's paying the bill for that, and he's going to pay the bill for that for his life because he moves differently than Roger. It was smoother. You know, Novak looks he looks like he's 22 still. Like he's
stretched like
he's getting
6 hours a day or something.
Gumby. He was it's insane. Yeah. But it's like it's going to be a weird post-mortem on their careers and what our expectations are. And someone's going to have 3 slams, and we're going to be like, nah.
You suck.
I'm like, shut up, everyone. Everyone's so good. But these 3, I mean, it's just insane that they're all playing at the same time. It's crazy. And also, we don't talk about enough. If you subtract one of them, we're looking at guys with 35 slams.
Right.
Like, they're eating each other's lunch the whole time, too.
How many did Sampras win? 18?
14.
14, okay.
14. Never won the French. And the other thing is, all these guys have won each slam, like, Nadal and Djokovic, there were only 2 guys that had ever won all the slams before this generation. Andre had won all the slams, and Laver had won all the slams. Nadal and Djokovic have won them all at least twice.
Roger only get 1 French.
1 French Open. I mean, and it was the year that Rafa got knocked out. Like, it was upset of the decade. But what they've done is just insane. It's crazy.
Keep firing.
Trash talking.
Yeah.
Is there any of it in tennis?
There is. It's kind of like when needed. You know, you see a lot of trash talk in the NBA, and it's like when a team's like up 20. There's no chance I was ever gonna like throw a variable in to piss someone off if I was up 20, right? It was more along the lines of like if someone you're in a 3 out of 5 set match, you know, someone takes the first set, you know, maybe they're 70 in the world, and I have a ton of respect for that, but in that moment, I'm gonna try to make them think a little.
Yeah.
I was like, you did it for an hour. Can you do it for 5 hours? Like, but it's always like under your towel.
As you're walking.
Yeah. Or like I'll say like you're 80 in the world and I have 3 hours to figure out why. You know, so it was kind of a little bit more subtle.
Is there some done through the umpire as well? Like this guy, that, whatever.
I mean, listen, it's all on the table, right? I mean, you wouldn't do it to. I think there probably had to be an element of just not liking the person personally.
Right.
Like, I don't know that I would ever go to like a dear friend and sacrifice like a long friendship for a quip.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it exists. It's tough it's a little bit tougher because you normally it's like the crowd noise comes up in any other sport, and that's when you can kind of get it in because you can't yell across the court.
Right.
You suck. It doesn't really work that way, but it's there a little bit.
I've always found it interesting, being a professional golfer, having a caddy there. It's an individual sport, but you've always got a shoulder to lean on, a voice to be in your head. And like when you're out there playing tennis, you are on an absolute island, right? And so junior golf is a little bit that way, but the only thing golf-wise that can compare it to is match play, where you're not really chatting with the guy you're playing against. Like, you see all these tennis players yelling at their box and stuff. How did you handle the mental strength it took to play a 5-set match when you didn't really have anybody to speak to?
It's weird. I don't know that at the time it was kind of normal, right? So, and then after tennis, and one of my best friends, Marty Fish, has opened up against some of his mental anxiety challenges, and as Osaka's talked out loud about it, and as it's become okay to kind of talk about, it's a weird existence. You're in a hotel room alone for 45 weeks a year. You're 4 hours into a match where, you feel like at any moment your entire body could cramp, right? But then you're also trying to focus. So it was this mental gymnastics in a very extreme exposed conditions that I thought was just like, you're supposed to be tough enough to do this. And kind of in the rear view, I'm going, well, that's actually psychotic. I mean, you'd walk out in Australia sometimes and like the mental thing started. So on center court there, it used to be just a rubber surface, like what do they call it? Rebound ace. It was a rubber surface. And so you would walk out there on a hot day and the on-court temps are probably 140, knowing that you could have, you prepare every match like you could be out there 6 hours. Sometimes it's an hour and a half, sometimes it's more. But to enter Rod Laver Arena, you kind of walk down 3 steps, so you're like almost eye level with the court, and you can kind of smell that that thing where it's like burning
Burning
tires.
rubber.
But also you look out and like when you're in the desert and it's really hot and you see those little like water kind of mirage situations, you could see that on the court. And so right then it's like, man, this sucks. This sucks. But
No wind movement.
But Agassi, I walked in one time. It was like really, really smart, intelligent people are able to take big concepts and like simplify them into like a sentence, right? So I come in. I think I'd won like a 5-setter. I'm just, I mean, you lay down, you don't move for an hour. You're just dead. You know, trying to get something into your body. I said, man, kid, this heat is just absurd. He goes, "You're an asshole." I said, "Possibly. Why specifically now?" And he goes, "You're in a job where you just have to be more comfortable than one person a day."
Shut up.
Yeah, I'm like, it's like
Stop making
brilliant.
sense. Stop
it's
making
brilliant.
sense.
Yeah, I'm like, he's like, everyone else is playing against the field. I mean, golf, you play against the field every day. He goes, you have to be more comfortable than one person. He goes, the person you just played was from, he's been training in Slovakia in December. He goes, shut up.
That's incredible.
Oh, okay, I'll just be over here in my own shame.
You ready to play a little hammer, or you got any more?
No, I'm ready to play some hammer.
All right, it's our little finishing segment here. Let's play some hammer. You ever play hammer on the golf
I
course?
do. I normally just start the conversation with just let me know what I owe at the end.
You want to start us off?
Go for it.
I'm going to be pretty basic here, but list me your top 3 favorite courses and favorite architects.
My 3 favorite courses, Pine Valley, Cypress is probably the best day of golf because you all don't get stressed about hitting it all ways. You go a place like Pine Valley, that's so hard. You start hitting it sideways, like panic sets in early, and I don't think Cypress quite has that panic mechanism. Third, I love a hoopie's like a home is like it's phenomenal. Probably those 3. Augusta's amazing. I mean, if you get a great day at Augusta, I mean, I don't know that it gets much better than that. I hate having only 3.
I know.
'Cause I'm such a fan of golf. Anything Mackenzie, like bunkering, you go to like Pasatiempo, and it's just like the
Western
bunkering,
Intercollegiate right
it's
now.
just crazy. It just looks so cool. So I'm a bit of a sucker for his style bunkering. And it's very different than what Augusta looks like too, by the way.
Completely.
Yeah.
All right, I got a bet for you. All right, we play a set of tennis.
Mm-hmm.
You beat me 6 love, you get 6 shots on the golf course.
Mm-hmm.
You have to start every game down 30 love.
Mm-hmm.
You only get 1 serve.
Mm-hmm.
We take it to the golf course.
Well, I wouldn't do anything that would only get me 6 shots against you on the golf course because we could skip the tennis and I would still get 6 shots from you on the golf course. So it basically just seems like a bunch of wasted time, really.
That's what I said. And the thing is, you're going to get 6
Now,
from
what-
him.
what-
You're
what-
going to smoke him on the course, and you're going to beat him
Now, what
6
the
love.
bet is we basically figure out what we would start at, which is probably 5 or 6. And then I have the ability to earn more on the tennis bet. Like I'm not going to start at a place where my upside is what is.
My golf game is a shambles.
Yeah, he's probably a 3 handicap. Your short game's still pretty tidy, though.
Stop it, you guys. I'm not going to be
Average.
Yeah, the negotiation's not going.
I
well.
just want to see him serve it to you one time. That's all.
There's more chance of me returning one of your drives than me returning one of his to the
That's
Just imagine some of the catcher's mitt just out in the fairway.
Can't hit it through a cardboard box from 5 feet away. Is that what you're saying?
Pretty much.
Meanwhile, you're about 30 yards shorter
It's
than me.
not
last
about me.
time. All right. I heard a funny story about the name of your dog,
Yeah,
and it is.
it's Bob Costas.
Yeah, tell me about
Yeah.
that.
Well, one, you have to give dogs a first and last name.
All right.
Because it's funnier. And I still get a kick out of, like, the vet will call, and they'll say, the vet will call, and they're like, Bob's ready. Bob. It's like, well, Bob Costas is ready to be picked up. So I have this vision of someone just picking up Bob Costas. And it's been something that's brought me moments of joy for 11 years.
What kind of dog?
It's an English bulldog.
Nice.
So it's like Bob Costas, and they look at you like English bulldogs are the sweetest dogs ever, but they always look very confused, right? And so he's like, Bob Costas.
Do you call him Bob Costas' full name every time you speak to him?
Yeah, so maybe sometimes Robert Costas. But yeah, so it was fun. Like literally this morning, my daughter and I were at Starbucks, and she asked me, like dead seriously, why isn't it Bob Roddick? I'm like, because picking up Bob Costas is funnier.
You had an English bulldog.
Oh man, they're the best.
Best.
I absolutely love that
Yeah.
dog. I bawled like a baby when we put him down. It was, yeah, they are the best.
Yeah.
All right, how disappointed were you that you didn't get an Oscars nod for Just Go With It? Seriously.
Okay, so wasn't really disappointed. Yeah, didn't really have much. So the truth is that I actually had 2 lines that apparently I couldn't deliver 2 lines, so those didn't end up on screen. There was this big gold chain that said "I love Justin," and at the time it was like Timberlake, Bieber. That wasn't actually on me when I was doing the scene. It was done in post, and so when my wife first went to the lot to watch the movie, before it was put out, I went with her, and so we're going in and we see Sandler before we go watch the movie. And he's like, "Oh, great." And he's like the nicest human of all time. So he says, "Enjoy it. Let me know what you think." So afterwards, we're driving by in carts, and he goes, "Nice necklace." Ew. I was like, and that was it. And then we come on, and I get no lines, and I have a dumb necklace. So, cheers.
Any more? Andy, thank you for your time.
Yeah.
This has been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Can't wait to get on the golf course at some point soon. I don't think the tennis court's happening. I think you could beat Brendon with your bare hand on the tennis court, but thank you.
Pickleball, that's what all, it's all the rage.
Yeah, I'll play some pickleball.
Yeah, let's do it.
We'll get Ishi out there.
No, screw Ishi, man.
Thanks, Andy.
Yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.